Good evening. My name is Helen Anthony. Good evening. If everyone can take a seat, if you would like to speak, I hope you've put your name on the list that are on the table. I so appreciate everyone attending. My name is Helen Anthony. I'm the chair of the Committee of Finance, and we are holding our second public hearing on the budget, and I so appreciate this excellent attendance. Tonight we have with us our committee members. We have Councilor, let's see who we have. It's Councilor Graves, we have Councilor Anderbaugh, we have Councilor Sanchez, we have Councilor Taylor. We also have with us tonight Council Member Mary Kay Harris. And we have our, from the Solicitor's Office, Etty Schaub, and we have our wonderful clerks, Lauren and Donna.
So noted.
Thank you. And so now we will take the list. Oh yes, I'm going to ask to waive the readings of agenda items. Okay, agenda items 1 through 4, which are the budget. And with that, we'll move right on to the testimony, and we'll collect the sheets so that we can allow everyone who's come here to speak. I would ask if you could please keep your comments to 2 minutes each. We have a lot of people here, and if you're saying the same thing as anyone else, you certainly can not speak when I call your name if you think your points have already been covered. So I will start with our sheets. Okay, so the first one I'd like to call is Travis Escobar.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. This is my first time presenting in this space, so yeah, I know, right? My name is Travis Escobar. I'm the Vice President of the Providence School Board. Also been born and raised in Providence, lived in Providence my whole life, grew up in the South Side, graduated from our schools, first in my family to graduate high school and college, actually. And being on the school board, one of the first questions that they ask you in that large forum in PCTA is sort of like, what are the biggest challenges and what are the biggest strengths that you see within the school system? And when I've answered that question, I thought about our strengths being our students, right? Our students, our teachers, our community. And I think our weaknesses sometimes are like the adults, like the systems, the structures, the powers that are in place. And we, representing Providence School Board leadership, we sent a letter to the City Council, we sent a letter to the mayor to sort of talk about how can we increase funding for our public schools. We certainly do not want to be in a case where we're shaming or demanding. As a Providence School Board, I think it's very important that we have more of a collaborative aspect, and that's what our letter dictates. And also, we know that the city is in a tough situation, right? Over the past 6 years, just on all the presentations that I've seen, just on a school level, it always talks about what we're seeing in terms of the cliff or sort of the tough financial situation that we're in. So I think even our letter and just me coming here today, we know that the city is going through a tough financial situation, but we also believe that as City Council, you have the ability to stretch more dollars and find more revenue, find more funding for our schools, because we surely need it. I'm pretty sure you're going to hear from a lot of young people and a lot of community members tonight on that. One thing I wanted to also take the opportunity to say is that earlier in my term, we did a City Council and School Board joint meeting. I would love for us to do that. Again, I want to sort of preach collaboration. How do we get our school board members and the council to come together and talk about this and a whole host of issues? Because yes, the state is small, the city is small, but we all seem to be distant and disconnected, especially on such an important issue like education. So I
We
want to
are
thank you
over
all.
2 minutes.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your service, and yeah, hopefully we can get more funding for our schools.
And Mr. Escobar, I just wanted to say thank you so much, and I agree. I think we should have more joint meetings between the school board and council, and I hope that we'll be scheduling those, and I really appreciate your service.
Thank you as much.
Thank you. Take care. Okay. Next is Clara Perez. Clara Perez. Is it Susli Murillo? Murillo? Okay, Jack Roosley. I think maybe somebody signed some people up that maybe aren't here. I don't know. Anja Arroyo. Okay. Yusaman Escogio. I know I butchered that last name, sorry. Okay, running right down the list, we do have John Pape.
Sorry, I thought I had 3 minutes, so I'm working on cutting. My name is John Pape. I'm the parent of 3 children who attend Providence Public Schools. Chairwoman Anthony and counselors, thank you for being here and for your work on behalf of our city. I'm particularly heartened to see Chair Anthony's and Councilman Gonzalez's recent letters. I appreciate your calls for more funding for Providence Public Schools. That said, I'm here today to express my continued disappointment in the priorities this administration has made clear in its budget, and to ask for allies on the City Council to stand with the city's children, families, and schools. Many in our local government insist on playing politics with children's education instead of being open, honest, and transparent with residents. For example, the mayor's office has called its $3 million increase for schools historic, but it's actually a cut in real terms given inflation. The mayor's office knows this. I hope the City Council knows this too. I've been in countless conversations about the PPSD budget over the past months. In nearly every meeting, city officials repeat empty excuses. We can't fund schools without bankrupting the city, without eliminating whole departments. These claims are just not true. There is always limited revenue in government budgets, always contractual obligations that create trade-offs, but there is money available to spend. Our leaders get to decide what to do with it. Over the past 2 years, under this City Council and administration, the general fund budget has increased by $47 million. Nobody in these conversations has made the case that the city is spending these $47 million in ways that best support the youth of this city. Instead, every single conversation has been about excuses. The state should pay more for public schools. The district isn't transparent enough. The Crowley Act is unfair. Instead of articulating how to use budget dollars to advance priorities, the city seems to be trying to score political points. So let's be clear, budgets communicate priorities. With $47 million more in revenue since 2023, nearly 3/4 of that has gone to public safety. Just $3 million has gone to public schools. Now, if your position is expanding policing is better for our city and more important than improving schools, that budget makes sense. But I haven't heard anybody making that case. The lived values in this budget are neither progressive nor technocratic. I'm baffled how progressive lawmakers can stand by while teachers and guidance counselors are laid off and the public safety budget explodes. I'm also baffled how technocrats can ignore the reality that public education has the highest return on investment to promote economic opportunity for residents. It doesn't have to be this way. Take the $47 million in new revenue over the past 2 years and allocate it differently. Give $20 million more to schools, keep everything else the same as budgeted, and that still leaves $15 million increase for public safety over the past 2 years. I looked today and saw 51 Providence public school classrooms asking for money on Donors Choose. One said, give my students enough copy paper for all content area learning in 2 languages. Copy paper? It doesn't have to be this way. Are the police asking for donations like this? Is there a GoFundMe for the police department, for the fire department?
Mr.
Why
Pape,
should our
if
schools
you could finish up, that would be
stand for your
wonderful.
priorities, make them clear. Please, City Council, stand for your priorities. If your priorities are for the city's families, for kids, I hope that you'll stand for our schools. Increase funding for PPSD by $20 million. Create a long-term plan to sustainably and adequately support public education in our city. Help build the world-class system that all of
Please
our students
finish up.
deserve. Thank you for your consideration.
The next is Aubrey Johnson. Aubrey Johnson. Oh, there we go. Thank you. If you could please state your name and address. Okay.
Hi, my name is Aubrey Johnson. I am the co-chair for the Parent Advisory Council. I'm also a parent of a student at PPSD. I
And
know
your
you're gonna-
address?
Oh, I'm sorry, 12 Pequot Street.
Okay, and
Providence.
lean right in. I know that mic's right in your face. You can bend it down, but lean right in there.
Is that good?
Okay, that's better.
I know you're going to get a lot of facts tonight, a lot of statistics, so I kind of wanted to take a different route. I wanted to paint a picture with no filter, because our kids' past, present, and future aren't determined or achieved through a photo op. The filtered version of the mayor cutting ribbon at a new school doesn't change the original image, an image of caution tape surrounding an empty middle school auditorium that's been uninhabitable for years because the roof literally fell in and there hasn't been a budget to fix it. The filtered version of the mayor smiling next to the 2024 Teacher of the Year doesn't change the original image, an image of new, hungry teachers and experienced, effective teachers with deflated spirits due to displacement and non-renewals. The filtered version of the mayor speaking at the mental health fair doesn't change the original image, an image filled with stress, anxiety, and fear of the future of PPSD. The filtered version of the mayor comfortably sitting in a classroom reading to students doesn't change the actual image, an image of overflowing classrooms where individuality disappears because they keep closing schools. I know it comes down to money, but I think we need to also consider how it's affecting our community, how it's affecting our students, how it's affecting our teachers, how it's affecting our parents. We are supposed to be a village raising our students, and I think we need to remember that, and I think we need to put our priorities first, and they're our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Zakia Mian.
Good evening. My name is Zakia Mian. I'm a student at West Broadway Middle School. I'm here today to speak not only for myself, but to also be a voice for the students of Providence. I have never heard an adult tell me that school wasn't important, that it didn't matter, but to be honest, this is what it feels like. A group of adults telling us that our education just isn't important enough. When you fund our schools, you show us that we are important, that we are seen, heard, and valued, and we are just not a number on a page. It seems that sometimes adults forget who they affect when they make decisions about schools. It's us. We are the future doctors, teachers, and leaders. Our schools are where we grow from kids into successful adults. It is where we can explore new things and interests that can shape our lives. I ask you to look at the students in this city, to really see us, our potential, and our dreams. We are not asking for luxuries. We're just asking to not be forgotten. Invest in us, believe in us, and give us the opportunities every student deserves. We might be young, but our voices matter, our education matters, our future matters. By fully funding our schools, you are telling us that we matter, our success and dreams matter, and that we as students matter.
Thank you so much. Okay. All right. If everyone could, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I want to make sure everyone who wants to can speak. So, Awilda Reynoso. Please forgive me again for the pronunciation. Welcome.
All right, good evening. Dear Chairperson Anthony and members of the City Council, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Awilda Reynoso Lopez, representing the Latino Policy Institute here in Providence. I'm here to stress the urgent need for increased funding for Providence Public Schools. You guys have heard the previous people that went behind me. There's so many great reasons as to why we need this increasement of funding. As we all know, education is the foundation of our society. Properly funded schools lead to higher graduation rates, better job opportunities, and a more engaged community. By allocating additional funding to PPSD, we can transform our schools and our cities. I want to stress about the current RI Kids Count Factbook 2024. Providence is one of the 4 core urban cities where almost 2/3, 65% of children live in poverty. Improving public education is a matter of life and death for these children. The current economic landscape underscores the necessity of preparing students for the jobs of today and tomorrow. By investing in education, we not only enhance individual prospects, but we also attract businesses and the well-being of the educated workforce. This investment ultimately leads to a stronger local economy and greater physical stability for the city. Furthermore, funding public education aligns with equity and social justice principles. Many students in Providence come from underserved communities. We can address these systemic inequalities and promote social mobility by ensuring that all students have access to high quality in education. We urge the Providence City Council to prioritize funding for public education. This is just not an expenditure, it is an investment in the future of Providence. The Latino Policy Institute is also committed to working with you all, the council, the community, and other stakeholders for and to support this vital cause. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. We have Erica Lambert. Erica? Oh, there you are.
Hi, my name is Erica Lambert. I'm a parent of 2 children in Providence Public Schools, and I've been involved in the school in many ways over many years. So I'm just going to tell a little anecdotal story here. When my daughter was about 3, maybe, I saw a notice for a public meeting of some kind to talk about selecting a new superintendent for the district, and I thought, this is really interesting, I'd like to attend this meeting. So I did. It was held in the auditorium at Nathan Bishop Middle School. There were maybe about 30 people there. It was a very interesting conversation. I don't remember the outcome. The following week, I saw a notice for another public meeting, also being held in the auditorium at Nathan Bishop Middle School, to talk about crime on the east side. I did not attend that meeting, but I saw a photo. The auditorium was completely packed to the gills. And I thought, this is crazy. Why do people not see the connection here? If we care about reducing crime, we need to care about who the superintendent is. So here we are, almost 10 years later, and it still feels to me like we're missing this connection. If we care about increasing public safety, we need to invest in the public schools. If we care about economic development, we need to invest in our public schools. If we care about building a strong, resilient community, we need to invest in the public schools. This should be our first and foremost priority. None of those other things can happen unless we invest in public education first. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. I'd just like to recognize we have with us this evening Pro Tem Pichardo, and also Councilor Peterson is joining us.
So noted.
Thank you. The next is Tomoko Shibuskawa. That's the best I can do.
Hi, my name is Tomoko Shibusawa, and I have a daughter in PPSD, and I've been and active in many PTOs, and a member of the Parent Advisory Council in the district. Election time is coming soon, and like clockwork, residents receive flyers from candidates saying, public education, it's so important, it's so important. Well, here is your chance to show us how important you really think it is. We need you to please stop level funding education and invest in our children. $3 million is not keeping up with inflation. That was the value from, it's only 3% from the numbers that I've been given, 3% increase from 2019, in that same amount of time, 21% increase in the total budget. So that's 3%, you guys, 3%. That is not enough. And that was pre-pandemic, right? And then during the pandemic, of course, we had some help with the ESSER funds. In our PAC meetings, we were told over and over again, we do not want to use money for staff because who knows what happens when the money goes away. Well, of course, they wanted to spend money on systems, curricula, and whatnot to enhance kids' learning. However, it was inevitable. We need personnel. We need the staff. And we've had community specialists, behavioral interventionists, and whatnot, and all these jobs, and social workers, and also the psychiatrists, they're all on the line right now. And we are not out of the woods. Even though the government has deemed the pandemic over, we have ongoing, lasting ramifications from it. So just to cut this short, you know what, please increase the funding. It's much needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would just like to recognize we've been joined by Councillor Gonsalves. Thank you so much.
So noted.
Next, we have Peter Chuney. Peter, I'm sorry, I may have mispronounced your last name.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Chairwoman Anthony and members of City Council. My name is Peter Chung. I'm a resident in Providence, and my child goes to Providence Public School. I stand before you today to express the urgency of prioritizing public education in Providence. The city's funding for our schools has been stagnant for years, and the proposed $133 million budget for this year falls significantly short, even when we compare it to the district's request for $147 million. Even the district's requested budget, our school faced painful cuts. Teachers, guidance counselors, behavioral specialists, coaches, interventionists have all been cut. The impact of these cuts will be felt across the district, but the greatest burden will fall on our children, my child included. I urge the city to increase investments in our public schools to $153 million, a $20 million increase. This would cover the district's $147 million budget request, as well as rehire some of the terminated positions that our schools desperately need. As a resident, I demand high-quality education for our children and families. As an employer in the city, I insist that we prioritize funding for our schools. I live here, I work here, and I'm deeply invested in our collective success. I cannot stand idly by while the city overlooks such a critical priority. Last year, the city conducted a survey to understand what is important to its residents. The results were clear. 59% of respondents were dissatisfied with public education, and 43% were dissatisfied with public safety. Yet the city's budget does not reflect these concerns. It includes $35 million increase for public safety, but only $3 million increase for public education. I'm not asking for more cuts. That would only exacerbate the problem. Instead, I urge you to dig deeper, reallocate the resources, and balance the budget in a way that equitably distributes our city's profits. Lastly, we need a clear plan to increase investments in education for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Vanessa Flores Maldonado.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Flores Maldonado. I'm the Executive Director at Providence Youth Student Movement, or PRISM. We have been in this floor for years now, begging for please to invest in true community safety. Does not include more violence, because that is what police is to us, to Black and brown folks, to folks who are living in the South Side, in the West End. Police is more violence, right? We have youth right now who currently have a campaign saying, we want counselors in our schools. We want nurses. We want mental health resources. We do not want police. We don't want guns in our schools. We need alternatives. And so I am just here to echo what everyone else has been saying here very loudly and very clearly, that funding our schools, public schools, not charter, public schools, is a critical step in ensuring the safety of our future, not police. We do not need more police officers. They do not make us feel safe. They don't even respond or prevent crime. They respond to crime. And then do they even solve the crime? I don't know the statistics. I'm sure we can look it up, and I'm happy, very happy to do that math with y'all. But the answer is no. We do not need more police officers in our city. There is no need for the dramatic increase in a budget, especially after the last 4 years that we have had with the pandemic, with the murders that we've seen on a national scale of Black folks at the hands of the state and police. And so I am just echoing the calls of everyone here, and for the folks who couldn't make it, to please invest in our schools, in our public schools, because we need it for our youth to actually feel safe and secure in who they are. Youth have the answers. They've been saying for a while now, ethnic studies, counselors, not cops. And so it's time as adults that we support them in their efforts and do everything that we can in our power, but especially in y'all's power, to support in what youth are demanding. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Alicia Lehrer.
Good evening. I'm Alicia Lehrer, and I'm the Executive Director at the Woonasquatucket River Watershed Council. We are located at 45 Eagle Street in Providence. And I give my thanks to you as the committee chair, Anthony, and say hello to members of the Finance Committee and our esteemed city councilors, many of whom I've met with previously. I did come before you before to reiterate our request that we made to the Finance Committee for $175,000 in funding to support the work that our team does to serve city parks and public spaces along the Woonasquatucket River Greenway. I will submit this, and I will keep it very brief. A couple of the council members joined us for a tour on June 1st, so they got to see firsthand how awesome this resource is. But just a quick couple of facts about what the Greenway does. It serves more than 50,000 Providence residents who live within a 10-minute walk of the Woonasquatucket Greenway. Our direct services and programs engage over 2,000 Providence residents. As a result of building the Greenway, there's been more than $1 billion invested in the Woonasquatucket River corridor. 75,000 residents and 25,000 households live within the Woonasquatucket watershed in Providence. So our request of $175,000 in funding is a very small portion of the funding that we use to maintain these public spaces. That's a total of $750,000 that we use. Our contribution that we raise through just general funders, individuals, other organizations is $200,000. We have asked the state to contribute $300,000, and we are asking our municipalities, of which Providence is included, for a total of $250,000. But because Providence has most of the people and most of the services of the Greenway, your portion of 175 is our request.
If you wouldn't mind finishing up.
Yep, I'll
Thank
finish
you.
up. I have the testimony here that I can submit, but I appreciate all of you for considering this request. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, okay, the next we have is Melissa Hughes.
Good evening, Chairwoman Anthony, members of the Finance Committee, and other city councilors. Thank you for your service and thank you for listening to us this evening. My name is Melissa Hughes. I live at 137 Elton Street in Ward 2. I'm the proud parent of 2 Providence Public School students, where my kids have been attending now for 11 years. I started my time in Providence schools serving on the parent-teacher organization at my kids' elementary school. Then I joined the Parent Advisory Council, and just this February, I was appointed to the Providence School Board. In March, I was elected secretary and named chair of the policy committee there. During the state intervention, the school board is serving in an advisory role where we meet monthly as a whole and in committee for policy, health and wellness, career and technical education, and finance. Since even prior to my time on the school board, I've been hearing about this looming fiscal cliff that is hitting us because of declining enrollment, increased need, both for multilingual learners, special education students, and also social and emotional needs of our students, which were exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Every month, I also hear from parents, students, and educators from across the district that are facing the realities of our lean budget and worries about further cuts. On the school board amongst ourselves, we have different ideas about how to address this need and how best to meet the needs of students. But we come together to collaborate and discuss and work as best we can together to serve our students and families well. I've also had the opportunity since 2020 to serve on the school building committee, and I wanted to share just a bit about that because I think it offers us a model for collaboration. On the school building committee, we handle projects for construction of either rebuilds, new schools, or renovations, and it's one of the most unique places I've ever been because we do have leaders from the city, from the state, from Providence schools, and the community coming together and doing their best to bring those projects to our kids. It requires compromise, collaboration between parties that don't always agree, but all of us are responsible for shifting the tide after decades of disinvestment. We need to show our students and families that we believe in them and bring them what they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And thank you for your service. Okay, and I also wanted to recognize we have Council President Miller with us.
So noted.
Next I have, I'm sorry, I can't even read this. Carrero Phoenix. Karrinen, first name P-H, last name is P-H-O-E-N-H. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
So, hello, my name is Kariana Puan, and I'm a senior at the Providence Korean Technical Academy. I'm also a youth organizer at the Alliance Rhode Island Southeast Asians for Education, or ARISE. So I just want to say that the school's budgeting has been a major issue that directly impacts us students. To be more explicit, the lack of funding. In my experience as a student who has only ever attended PPSD, it doesn't really feel consistent in a way. So like, I know and am aware of the money that we have to switch from different curriculums, because in the past few years we've gone from like Summit online program to like Study Sync, and now we have Canvas. And it really makes me wonder, if we could easily switch the way we learn and the curriculum, why is it so hard for us to keep teachers that we are really already in need of? So as a student, I don't really feel safely supported when it comes down to my education in school. The district has not been able to have enough funding to sustain our teachers. At PCTA, school year 2024 to 2025, we won't have a Spanish teacher or a Spanish course to be taken for language. This goes to show one of many teachers who are being let off. And through ARISE, I've seen the ESSER budgeting, and I know that we have millions of dollars in funding for Providence alone, but not necessarily knowing where all of it is going. I've seen many teacher turnout leading to teacher burnout, where many of these teachers end up leaving and getting replaced. So as a senior, although it may not affect me, because I'm leaving the college, I am the oldest sister of 4 siblings. My siblings and many other families in PPSD are going to be affected by these funding mishaps and will continue to be a problem for future generations. So we're calling for a $20 million increase in funding. Think about the future generations it'll help. With the money we put forward, we're investing in the success of PPSD students, all of them. So please fund.
Thank you. Okay, the next we have is it Sela Yarg?
Good evening. My name is Sheila Yang. I am a junior at Pilgrim High School and a youth leader affiliated with ARISE. I am here to testify on behalf of Providence Public School students to increase the school budget to $20 million. Although I am from the Warwick District, I have family and know peers that go to Providence Public Schools, and I find it absolutely horrendous that the Warwick District has a larger budget than Providence, despite Providence holding more students. Low budgeting is poor budgeting, and with poor budgeting comes several issues that affect the students' academic performance, mental and physical health. The budget is significantly smaller compared to other city investments, such as the City Departments of Public Safety's FY25 proposed budget, which many students have expressed their discomfort with police in schools. Historical flat funding that increases the basic cost of living, and the original $3 million increase for PPSD is less than a 3% increase, which is not nearly enough to cover many of the issues revolving around PPSD. Many students don't have access to textbooks to take home. School buildings have broken down and are filled with polluted, undrinkable water. Lack of funding for imperative courses, such as ethnic studies and mental health resources. If it hasn't made clear, low budgeting is not only neglectful, it can be quite dangerous for students, especially from those from vulnerable low-income households. Family and students should be allowed to engage in critical conversations to know where the school budget is going into. Whether it be towards their education, mental health resources, COPS, students and family should also engage in decision making. Students and families are part of the community, and it's the students that are living the today at schools. No longer should students feel neglected, but rather be allowed to engage with their community and fight for better standards for their education. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next is Hillary Lewis.
Hello, my name is Hillary Lewis. I live at 145 Cypress Street, and I'm here representing the 205 citizens of Providence that signed the open letter that we submitted during testimony. So I'm going to read some parts of it. We're a group of parents and caregivers and students in PPSD from across the city, and we're writing about the continued lack of funding for Providence Public School District and calling on you all to increase city support for PPSD schools by at least $20 million. Without a significantly larger investment next fiscal year, PPSD schools will be stripped of the already thin resources they're using to educate our city's most valuable resource, our children. There are already announced significant cuts, and there will be additional if there are not additional dollars found in the next few weeks. Given our experiences, we know PPSD has challenges, but we also know there are real bright spots. We also know that the schools are under state control, and the state has clear obligations here as well. But the bottom line is that for too long, city leaders have stood by and ignored their responsibilities to public education. Regardless of who is in charge, our children are not just Rhode Islanders, but the children of Providence, and the city needs to stand with them. We're deeply concerned about the proposed $3 million increase in the mayor's budget. It fails to meet or sufficiently support the educational need of Providence students. It is welcome and long overdue, but it is also a small and insufficient step toward funding our schools at a level commensurate with the world-class city that Providence could be. We believe that this needs a longer-term solution, and that whatever investment is made this year should be part of a multi-year investment in the schools to get them to the levels that they need to be. Mayor Smiley, in his campaign materials, shared that he would be the fiercest advocate and champion for our students, our families, and our community, and that he would direct city resources where our students and families need them most. Well, where they need them most is in the schools. We need to stop the finger pointing. Our students are Providence students and Rhode Island students, and ask that you do what's right for the students and the city and increase the investment in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next I have, is it Stephen and Cleto Garcia? Oh boy, sorry.
Good evening, Chairperson Anthony and esteemed members of the Finance Committee for the Providence City Council. My name is Stephen Cleto Garcia, and I'm a project manager at PLE, Parents Leading for Educational Equity, and I have the distinct pleasure of co-creating with Providence families and youth. We are calling for an additional $20 million to support our schools, which are currently facing severe budget cuts that threaten the very foundation of our students' education and future. PPSD is grappling with a financial crisis that has forced the elimination of essential positions such as school counselors, interventionists, reading specialists, assistant principals, teachers, and teaching assistants. These cuts will not only hinder our students' academic performance, but also impact their social and emotional well-being. Consider this: without school counselors, a young student struggling with anxiety and bullying has no one to turn to. Without reading specialists, a child with dyslexia falls further behind, unable to access the individualized instruction they need. Without interventionists, students at risk of failing receive no additional support. And without teaching assistants, classrooms become overcrowded, leaving teachers overwhelmed and students neglected. The impact of these cuts extends beyond the classroom. At home, students who lack support in school are more likely to struggle with homework, experience stress and anxiety, and have lower self-esteem. Parents and caregivers are also affected as they must take on additional responsibilities to compensate for the lack of school resources, often at the expense of their own well-being and financial stability. It is the responsibility of both the state and the city to not only fund our schools, but to adequately fund them. This means providing sufficient resources to meet the rising costs associated with inflation and the increasing needs of such things as special education services. The future of our children, and indeed our community, depends on it. Picture a school where every child has the support they need to thrive, a school where counselors help students navigate their emotional challenges, where reading specialists unlock the joys of literacy for struggling readers, and where interventionists offer a lifeline for those falling behind. We need to invest in our schools, not just for the sake of education, but for the sake of our community's future. Without immediate and significant financial support, PPSD will face even more severe cuts in the coming years. I urge you all to stand with us and with our students to secure at the very least $20 million in additional funding for PPSD. This is not about dollars and cents only. It's about dreams and possibilities. It's about the young girl dreaming of being the first in her family to go to college, and a boy who finds purpose in the art classroom, and students feeling seen and heard because counselor was there at a moment of crisis. Let us invest in the future of Providence Public Schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we have Joe Sittenfeld.
Hello, everyone. I'm a parent, also here to advocate for an additional $20 million for PPSD. Right now, with the budget cuts, the city's denying Providence children adequate funding, letting down our most vulnerable population. What we're losing is not vague, it's specific, and it's heartbreaking. At the elementary school level, we're losing guidance counselors. At the middle school level, we're losing behavioral interventionalists. These are nurturing adults and mentors who build one-on-one relationships with students, high-five in the hallways between classes, and work with individual families to come up with a plan, especially with children who struggle to attend school. Ms. Natalice Quesada, a beloved elementary school guidance counselor, is just one of the people losing her job. Ms. Natalice went through PPSD from K through 12, graduating from Juanita Sanchez High School in 2015. The fact that she walked through these same halls, that she speaks Spanish, that she's young, makes her an invaluable gift for our kids. She recently told me she wanted to return to her community, to come back to PPSD specifically, to provide the services that she once lacked. In the short time she's worked in the district, she's made a difference in hundreds of students' lives. It's important for children to have teachers who look like them, who understand where they come from. And now, after just 2 years at her elementary school, she's being let go and leaving PPSD because she doesn't have any job prospects. Ms. Natalice has taught students how to recognize their emotions. What emotions do our children feel now knowing that she's leaving? They feel sad and helpless. Sad that the people controlling the city and school finances have decided their emotional well-being isn't worth investing in. They feel helpless because nurturing people like Ms. Natalice, recently hired by the district to combat record levels of anxiety and depression among our youth, won't be at their schools in September. Please find funding to keep behavioral interventionalists and guidance counselors across the district. Find a way to keep the people who are essential to keeping our kids happy and healthy. Do better for our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Grant Delgarian.
Quicker if the city sergeant would let me stand instead of sit, but Grant Delgarian, 20 Exeter Street. I have a couple of process items I want to mention before you start my 2 minutes. One is I want to commend the Finance Committee for looking at the city budget department by department. It was very commendable over the last couple of months. What would have been helpful was at the end of each of those committee meetings, if you would allowed public input, that would have been helpful, and then we could be specific on a department by department basis. Excuse me. I want to touch on 3 different areas. Number one, we all talk about housing crisis. There are a number of things we can do about that, working at the core problems of the housing crisis, not subsidizing the high housing prices and rents that we experience right now. That is a function of the comprehensive plan that the City Plan Commission is going to be reviewing. And so I would hope this committee would tell the City Plan Commission to tell the Department of Planning and Development that what they need to do is to take a couple of sections of the comprehensive plan at a time and hold public hearings. It can be centrally located, public hearings on a couple of sections at a time so people can give detailed responses to each of those sections. That hasn't happened, and that's very unfortunate. Excuse me. Number two, the recycling. Every year, the Solid Waste Management Corporation, Resource Recovery, the landfill, puts out an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that documents the recycling rates for the 39 cities and towns in Rhode Island, and they're all disappointing, and some are dismal. And guess who's in the dismal category? We are. There's no justification for that. This is not rocket science. We can do a much better job, and I have specific suggestions and recommendations on that when you have an opportunity to have this conversation. Finally, transportation. City of Providence does nothing to support RIPTA, and I'm not saying they should start funneling money into RIPTA. However, they could be at least cooperative and helpful. And number one is Kennedy Plaza. Visualize Kennedy Plaza. It's bounded on the north side by Washington Street, on the south side by Fulton Street. If you want to go west to east, you can go either street and get there, no problem. If you want to go east to west, you can't do either one. You have to do-si-do around. That makes no sense at all whatsoever. What this committee should tell Public Works Department tomorrow is to make Washington Street, the one block from Dorrance to Exchange, 2 ways, buses only. There's a median there, perfect. Make Fulton Street 2 ways for everybody. Makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. Finally, suddenly within the last half a year, what happened? The Washington Bridge died. And what is being proposed is to build another Washington Bridge adjacent to the existing one.
Mr. Delgaria, we're going to have to finish up.
30 seconds. And what will we gain by that? We'll gain an extra lane of vehicular traffic. What I am suggesting is that this committee tell the Department of Planning and Development to issue an RFP for an environmental impact statement comparing alternatives to either do nothing or build a bridge to add a lane of traffic or to connect downtown Providence to downtown Newport by rail. If Boston had a Newport less than 3 dozen miles away, they'd be connecting it yesterday. We should look at the information that an EIS would generate and then make an informed decision. More information we have, better decisions we make. That, I think, would be such a boon economically
Mr.
for the city of
Delgaria, we
Providence.
have to finish.
I am done.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Is there anyone that wanted to speak that hasn't had an opportunity to speak? If so, yes, please. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I'm sorry that I arrived late. My name is Jennifer Wood. I am the director of the Rhode Island Center for Justice, and I am also a 47-plus year resident of the city of Providence, very proudly so, raised my children here. And I just wanted to join and elevate the voices of the young people and families you've heard from today. My children are now grown, but I really want to emphasize how much I support the prioritization of city revenues for public education. I join others in asserting that it is the single most important thing that we can invest the city's resources in, and everything else flows from that foundation. I worked for the Department of Education for 10 years. Over the last 40 years, I think I have been in virtually every school building, around 350 in the state of Rhode Island at one time or another. I've spent 40 years working in and around education circles as a lawyer. And I just want to bring a message of equity to this council and really affirm the importance of shifting our mindset from an austerity mentality to an empowered mentality of saying, Not how little can we spend on education, how much can we sue each other over who's going to pay the bill, but how proud are we to prioritize the investment in education and make it our single top priority for the expenditure of our dollars. It's a mind shift. I go to other communities around the state and around the country, and I see school buildings that are affirming, welcoming, supportive, stable places where both the adults and the children feel safe, where adults think, I probably have a job next year. I can commit to this for the long term. And where children feel like, I want to come in tomorrow because the people here really seem calm and nice and do interesting things with me. It's not rocket science when we look at attendance matters and wonder why children are not showing up in spaces where they feel unsafe, unwelcome, and where there's a general feeling of lack of stability among the adults in the setting. It's not that hard to understand what we could do if we shift our thinking to say, not how little can we invest in public education, how much can we invest? Can we own the statistical top line? Can we say that Providence invests more per capita in public education than any other community in our state? That would not be... We do have to wrap up. I will wrap and say that should be a point of pride, not a problem. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? We can take a couple more. Okay, please approach. We'll take two more.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Matt Butner. I live on Slater Avenue. What I would like to add to this conversation is how do we reverse a systematic underinvesting in our community, in our public schools that's been going on for years. As many have pointed out, there's a failure to address citizens' top concerns. When you look at the mayor's own survey, 20% are satisfied with public schools. Over half of our community is satisfied with public safety, yet there's a disparity in the investment over the last 5 years to the tune of 10% to public schools, where you have over 30% going to public safety. I think second, and more concerning, is the propagation, both at the leadership or lack of leadership by the mayor in this council, of a two-tier system. When you look at the east side specifically, there are families that are continuing to opt out and disengage from our public schools, to the concern of, have you gone mad? Is that safe? Without action and steps forward to fund our public schools, that will only get worse and worse. That's going to create a weaker community and put all of our students at a disadvantage. I think third is recognition of the mayor and his lack of leadership, and pointing at the state of not taking responsibility for this issue. This is a Providence issue. We should all own it, and we're all here, and I encourage the council, as many others have asked, to fund the schools with an incremental $20 million versus the mayor's proposed budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And our last speaker. Thank you. Hi.
I'm Freddie Cabrera. I go to Alvarez here in Providence, and I'm here to say I'm disappointed in the fact that I even have to be here. I shouldn't have to be here. I am a child who shouldn't have to worry about how the funds are being directed into a school. I should be at home playing video games with my friends. Instead, I am here to tell you how to delegate your funds. I shouldn't have to do this. I should be able to trust my adults that they can make the right decisions for me, my family, and my peers. But I unfortunately cannot do that. After years of being told that I should be more involved in my government, and while being more involved in my government, I'm being spat in the face by constantly being ignored. I've sent letters, I've tried to testify, I've done all of this, and yet nothing has happened. It's ridiculous, quite frankly. I shouldn't have to tell you guys this. I really shouldn't. But here I am, because I care and plenty others care. So listen to us when we say we are trying, and you can complain about test scores and all that all you want, but if you don't want to invest in us, then we cannot show you profit. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that will be it. All right, we'll do this last one. I see someone coming up. This is it. This will be our last speaker. Thank you for coming.
Hello, my name is Anaya Arroyo. I am 18 years old and I was born and raised in Providence. I will be graduating next week from Classical High School. And when I had found out that there was an action today to advocate for more PPSD funding, I was befuddled because anyone who walks through one of these Providence high schools knows if there's anywhere more money needs to go, it's to our schools. Us, the youth, spend 8 hours a day in buildings with dilapidated facilities. Holes in our ceilings, old buildings made with asbestos, lack of hot water in our sinks, no heating or air conditioning, revealed wires hanging from the ceilings, and the list continues. These conditions are distracting and create harsh and uncomfortable conditions for the forming of the minds of our future leaders, workers, and innovators. It's ridiculous that young people who play such a vital role in today's society and the shaping of our future, must be subjected to these. Secondly, we're in Providence. We have a diverse student body who come from different backgrounds and parts of the city. Not only should we be able to see that reflected in our teachers who are underpaid and seem to keep being let go of left and right, we should see that reflected in our class materials and methods of learning. Currently, students in Providence are being taught lots of times with outdated or very limited materials, creating an inequitable education experience for students who attend Providence public schools compared to students in other cities in Rhode Island, as well as for students within these schools who learn in other ways besides lecture. Thirdly, many students in Providence come from low-income households / working-class households facing barriers such as food insecurity, lack of access to health care, including mental health care, and unstable living conditions. Without additional support services and accessible resources, our urban schools are left to address these complex needs on their own, further straining our already strained budgets. Furthermore, many students, especially this year's graduating class, between COVID and our stretched-thin budgets, didn't even attend field trips really in high school due to what our school told us was a budget issue. At Classical specifically as well, we have teachers coming out of pocket to access specimens for our anatomy classes and pay for various club expenses due to defunding of such activities. In conclusion, this is not just a matter of equitable education for all. This is a matter of making sure we show up and show out for the creators of our future. We preach the importance of education, yet don't seem to prioritize and allocate the resources needed to create favorable, supportive, and generally positive educational environments. Many of these issues I have mentioned are treated as if they're taboo, and it is up to us all to make sure that they're not left unspoken about or unnoticed. We must act now before more time goes by with things unchanged, and a step in the right direction is designating more money to our public schools. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I have to thank you all very much for attending and speaking this evening. And right now I would like to mark our stack of correspondence from everyone as Exhibit 1. It's not a motion. Okay. It's just recognizing that we have it. Thank you. All right, and with that, we will be closing the public hearing. Thank you again for your testimony this evening.